It's often hard to make sense of what's happening during a panic attack. Even after it's over, you may find it hard to explain how you became so afraid. In order to become more aware of what is happening and what is not happening, it helps to take the role of an observer during a panic attack. Please check your reaction to the idea of more closely observing a panic attack. Many of my clients have initially hated this idea and told me that they much preferred to distract themselves from the panic. Maybe you have the desire to distract from panic too. It's a common reaction, so consider this question. What does it tell me about a problem if I'm motivated to distract myself from it? What it tells me about a problem when I want to distract myself from it is that the chips are not down right now. It's not a 5-alarm fire which demands immediate action. If it were, I wouldn't be distracting myself. I'd be fighting the fire. If you were at a bank when a robbery broke out, would you balance your checkbook to distract yourself from the gunplay? Probably not. Distraction would be the last thing on your mind as you tried to protect yourself. The urge to distract yourself is one of the best signs you'll get that you don't need to protect yourself. We'll return to the topic of distraction in the next chapter. For now, consider that the best use of distraction might simply be in noticing the urge to distract and recognizing what that means, that you're having unpleasant thoughts in the absence of danger. Let's consider how you can enhance your observing power during a panic attack. People often don't notice that a panic attack consists of 4 different kinds of symptoms. Identifying the 4 types of symptoms is a big step in taking the role of observer and feeling less overwhelmed. This is part of what's called affect labeling by research psychologists, and it's been found to be far more helpful than resisting or attempting to ignore the symptoms. Breaking a panic attack into its different parts as you experience it will give you several advantages. 1. You understand better what you're up against and feel less confused and overwhelmed. 2. You're better prepared to respond in ways that calm rather than agitate you. 3. You see that a panic attack is not an attack at all, but a reaction. 4. You're better able to observe what is going on. The role of observer gives you a little emotional distance from the turmoil of the attack. When you experience a panic attack, you're either going to assume the role of an observer or a victim. The observer role works better. We'll return to this idea later in this chapter. The 4 different kinds of symptoms are these: 1. Physical sensations. 2. Thoughts. 3. Behaviors. 4. Emotions. Answer the following questions in your journal. Physical sensations are probably the part that gets the most of your attention. Think about your first full-blown panic attack or another major one you recall clearly and list the physical symptoms you experienced. Thoughts are an important part of a panic attack and are easy to misunderstand. What scary thoughts do you typically experience during a panic attack? Include them all, especially the ones that sound extreme and unrealistic now. Behaviors are the actions you take, the things you do, rather than what you feel or think. They may be as subtle as eye movements or as obvious as bolting for the door. What behaviors do you engage in during a panic attack? An emotion is a gut reaction, an overall feeling. Emotions are feelings such as glad, sad, mad, afraid, jealous, and so on. What emotions do you typically experience during a panic attack? Physical sensations. You probably don't need any help noticing your physical sensations. They're usually screamingly obvious to the person experiencing an attack, although not to others. You might be hoping that I don't list them here. Many people find that the simple mention of certain physical symptoms is enough to create that symptom within their body, and they naturally prefer to avoid that. However, I'm going to list the more common ones here, and you can use this as a chance to practice some simple exposure by listening to them if you're willing. Physical symptoms include changes in heart rhythm, faster, slower, louder, quieter, missed beats, extra beats, labored breathing, feeling lightheaded and/or dizzy, tightness, heaviness, pain in the chest, hot and cold flashes and sweating, digestive upset, perceived weakness in legs and major muscles, tingling and numbness particularly in the scalp, fingers, and toes, trembling, sometimes visible, often not. Answer the following questions in your journal. Maybe you noticed a reaction to the symptoms on my list, or maybe not. If you did notice a reaction to hearing that list, what was it? If you had unpleasant reactions to hearing my list, are you willing to try an experiment? Select the 2 symptoms you find most bothersome and picture the following people experiencing them in the following scenarios. A Frenchman with a handlebar mustache, wearing a beret, experiencing those symptoms while eating a croissant at an outdoor cafe. Vladimir Putin, wearing a muscle shirt, seated at a massive desk in a palatial estate within the Kremlin. The Queen of England, with crown and scepter, presiding over another conflictual meeting of the royal family. Did you have reactions to picturing those scenarios? If you did, how did those reactions compare to your initial reactions? Results will vary, but most people probably find that they had different, less unpleasant reactions to the scenarios than to the original list. It's not the simple presence of a word or thought that gives us a reaction. It's what you do with that thought, how we respond to it, that colors our reaction. If someone throws a stone at you and their aim is true, that will hurt. Your attitude toward the stone doesn't matter much. If someone throws a word at you, however, it matters a lot how you relate to that word. The same applies to your own thoughts. Learning to relate differently to our thoughts is a big part of taking on the observer role. Think about your thoughts. One big problem people have with their thoughts is that in the moment of a panic attack, they fail to recognize that this symptom is just that, a symptom. It's not a sixth sense that gives you advance warning of something that's about to happen. It's not a warning from your guardian angel. It's just a way of being anxious. The real message of the scary thought during a panic attack is not the literal meaning of the words in the thought. The thought, like all panic and anxiety symptoms, has to be interpreted. The problem people have is that they automatically assume the thought is literally true, and their body responds as if it were true. If you sat talking with someone who kept jiggling his leg during the conversation, you would probably make some interpretation of what that jiggling meant. You probably wouldn't take it literally and think it meant he wanted to play soccer or go jogging. You'd probably interpret it as nervousness. In the same way, if he bit his fingernails, you wouldn't take it literally and think he was hungry or wanted to eat himself up. You'd probably interpret it as nervousness. When you have these scary thoughts of death, insanity, and loss of control during a panic attack, these are also symptoms that need to be interpreted. They're not accurate warnings of death and insanity, any more than leg jiggling is about soccer or nail biting about cannibalism. Consider the thought, what if I faint at the party? This type of anticipatory thought leads lots of people to cancel and avoid lots of events, even when they have no history of fainting. This thought isn't a valid prediction of how I will be at the party next week. It's a sign of how I feel right now. Nervous. These thoughts mean you're nervous now. Nothing more, nothing less. They mean the same thing as the dry mouth, the wet palms, the labored breathing, and the urge to flee. You're nervous now, or afraid, or anxious, or scared, whatever word you want to use. It's not about future fainting, it's about nervous now.